Yo, what is going on, everyone? What are we doing here? Hello, Jeff. I'm Jeff. Hello from me, Jeff, to you. Jeff from Strumwood Guitars. It's been a little while since I've done a live, and the main reason why is because I have a lot of like messy jobs that I'm working on as well currently. So routers and planers, and I haven't really quite figured out how to do that. But I got some setups. As you can see from the screen, we are live on YouTube and Twitch. So if you are on one of those streams, feel free to like on YouTube, and thanks for being here. We're gonna just kind of jump right into it. I have a handful of work to do, actually, but currently right now we're going to do some setups. We are going to do, we've got probably about 3 or 4 that we should be able to get through today. So the whole idea on these is I'm just kind of setting up shop. It's sitting in the corner of the room, and you can come hang out and ask your questions and do what you need to do. But this is really just kind of hang out and see what's happening. It's funny, I've been doing this for a couple. It's actually been a couple weeks since I streamed, but it has been a couple of weeks, and so far they've actually been all really awesome. I've had some great conversation and people jumping in. So yeah, thanks for being here, and we're gonna kind of just jump right into it. So also I'm doing the music. It's whatever. I'm not monetized anyway, so we'll worry about that down the radar. But let me know if it's too loud, and we can do it. I think it should be okay. But let's see what's up. It's a little too hard though. Let me just change that up. I don't remember where I started from. Here? Maybe here. Anyway, here we go. Ugh. First on the bench is a Telecaster. Let me switch this here. And I've been messing around with the lighting here too, because actually I don't have my main bench light on, because when I do normally have that on, it's quite blown out and you get all these reflections. So I've been kind of trying to work it without it. I don't need anything crazy bright right now anyway, so it's not like it's the end of the world, but yeah, I'm trying to figure out that. But yeah, it's actually a really nice telly that we got here. And this particular one has said that the G string sounds sharp when fretting, even with light touch. And I immediately start looking at the nut, because that's typically where that comes from. I'll measure that up in just a second here. So let me just check my notes from when I signed it in. really trying to figure out that angle. I'm going this way. I'll get it. I'll get it. It's okay. We'll figure it out. Okay, yeah, so this particular one... sharpen first couple of frets, set up with strings supplied in standard tuning. Ooh, elixirs. Yeah, so the way that I do these, the way I do any job, but the way of what I'm doing here with the live streams is I get asked often, can I follow the steps? Can I come sit in the shop? Can I follow you along? And I mean, as much as I would love to have that, I don't have a ton of space, nor really the means to be able to do that. So this is just one of those things where it's kind of cool that we can kind of all be here and hang out together, sort of thing. So that's what's happening. And I just kind of walk you through my process on the way that I do repairs. I'm not saying that anyone else's procedures are wrong. We all do it a different way, and here's the way that I go through these things. And yeah, the first thing that I always do with a brand new guitar, regardless of what it's in for, I will always record it in my software, what the action and just what it feels like when it comes in. So I measure string gauge, I'll measure the string action, so how high the strings are coming off of the fretboard, and as well as the tuning that it's in, and anything kind of major that I need to note. If I take a guitar out of the case and I've got some sort of damage or something on that, I will take a photo of that immediately, and I just put that in our software, and myself and my client can see that. At the end of the day, I'm running a business, so, you know, it just kind of saves my bacon, and I've never had to use it, knock on wood, but it's just good to have that and just kind of tracking yourself in case. So yeah, we will measure this up and then we'll get started. All right. And the reason why I do that is, as far as measuring everything, is that if I don't have a record of where it came in at, how am I supposed to know how to make it better? So some people will actually give you numbers, you know, they read it online or in a forum or whatever, but also they just, you know, it's too high, it's too low. When I go up higher, it's too high. You know, I at least have some sort of reference rather than taking the strings off. I did that the first couple hundred guitars that I did, is that I would take everything off, and then I didn't remember actually what it was set up to, and that was a bit of a mistake because I'm guessing on where it came in from. So we are 11 to 49, so it's the same gauge of strings of what we're about to put on, which is great. Well, I say great because it's not going to be a lot of extra work that I have to do. String action. The way I do that is just kind of put it in playing position, and I'm fretting the first fret. I don't have a visual of what I'm doing right now, but anyway, I'm fretting the first fret, and then I'm just measuring it at the 12th. It's sitting at 3/64ths, which is a little low. It's fine if you have good fretwork. This guitar does not have good fretwork, so I'm sure there's some fret fuzz happening. 64th, and I believe we are in standard. E. In E standard. Perfect. Save that for myself. Yeah, so now I know what's going on there, and I can actually see, or rather I've got all that recorded, so now I can actually start to look. Oh, actually I should have measured that while I had this in. So I have a written note, and then also when I picked up the guitar, we had this conversation just about the sharp frets, and so now I'm actually going to kind of give it a little play over, just kind of see what's going on. Actually, is pretty good. So yeah, don't have any sort of crazy things there, but looking at on a tuner, actually I'll even use a plectrum. We are in E. Oh, I gotta get a tuner cam, that's what I need. Add another camera. Okay, so that one's actually not too bad. That one is basically right in. Oh, never mind. It's going a little sharp. And intonation actually is pretty good. So what I'm doing is if I come back a little bit this way. So what I'm actually doing is I'm plucking the open string and I put that into tune, and then I'm playing in the first fret, which is just out of frame. And that's telling me that my note is just a hair sharp. It's actually not too bad. And then I check the 12th fret, and now this is my intonation. So the intonation is actually really good. So open string and 12th fret are the same note, which is what you're looking for. Well, an octave up, but they're in tune. And if your first couple of frets are sharp, it's more often than not, it is that the nut is too high. The nut slots are too high. So our E is just a hair over, as is our A, as is our D. So yeah, we're just a little bit sharp, which is probably a... Okay, so that one's actually quite a bit more. Also, I'm hearing some really good fretwork there. Okay, so the B is bang on. So is this. Actually, first fret isn't too bad, so the C is a little sharper too. Okay, so that's just telling us that we got some nut work to do, but it's like a stroke or two, and we'll be good. A lot of fret noise. But I mean, the other thing is too, is like it doesn't necessarily matter if there's fret noise. It's really dependent on what is happening with... If I can change the light angle or something, just so you can actually see what's going on, but you understand. There's a telly here. Yeah, I wonder if, depending on how much gain and stuff you're using, so if you got a lot of dirt, like if you're using pedals and you're really crunchy, you're not going to hear fret noise. If you're playing super clean jazz and very articulate notes and stuff, you will hear fret noise. So it does depend on the playing style. A very common thing that I and a lot of my fellow repair techs will get is, as low as possible with no fret buzz, which is fine, but you also, in that case, have to have immaculate fretwork. So all your frets are crowned and stuff, which is a whole other thing, which is fine. But if you don't have that, it's going to be pretty impossible to get super low. But at the same time, I've had a couple people be like, just drop it as low as it goes. Don't worry about it. I like the feeling of it more than the sound of it. So it's your guitar. That's fine. We can do that. I am not here to judge you. I'm here to fix the guitar and put it to the way that you want it. So that's cool. Yeah, okay, so we kind of figured everything out there. Just a little bit of network. So what I often will do, because I'm going to have to tighten and loosen the strings, I'll actually do this on the old set of strings. So we are going to be setting this up. We are going to be changing the strings and cleaning up the frets and so forth. But I'm going to actually adjust the nut with the old strings on, and that way I'm not doing all these weird stretch marks on the new strings. And that's just one of those things that kind of comes, not everyone likes to do it that way. I think it's more efficient than taking a new set of strings, especially elixirs. They're not just like a standard set. You're paying a little bit more for them. And if you're stretching them continuously and tuning them up and then tuning them down, you're just kind of taking some of the wear out of them. So I'll do any of that sort of network if it's minor, I'll do it on the old set of strings. If I'm replacing a nut, well, obviously it depends on the condition of the strings. So yeah, what I will do is just grab some files, and there's a couple different ways that we can measure fret height. The nut slot height. I do have the dial, big fancy tool, and to be honest, I'm not really a big fan of it. I like to do it kind of by feel and by touch. So there's a couple different things that you can do. Obviously with the tuner, as we kind of discovered, we're just a little bit sharp in these first couple frets. So you can kind of just keep filing down until that second note is also in tune. So we would want to make sure that, our E is in tune, our 12th fret is in tune, and now, so our intonation. And then we'll be playing on our first and second frets and just kind of keep filing until they go in. That's fine if you don't have any other sort of accessories. What I'm actually going to use is feeler gauges, and what you can do... Actually, I'll show you the other way. The other way that you can do it, and this is, you know, a little bit more technical without the feel touch. Let's try and get this in view for you here. So what you can do, oh my gosh, sorry, my camera's upside down and flips, so it's throwing my head off. So if we're over here, what we can do is actually fret the first fret, or sorry, fret the third fret, and we're going to press down on the first fret. And what you're looking for is you're looking for where the string and the fret kind of touch each other at the first fret. So when I'm pressing down on the third fret and I'm just kind of tapping with the first, I don't want to be hearing a click, and that's just saying that there's a lot of gap between the string and the fret. It should be pretty much touching the fret, and if it's not, then you're going to want to file that, and that's about as much as it is. It's difficult to get on these cameras, but it's not a whole heck of a lot. So this is the way that I actually used to cut my nut slots for actually quite some time, and it worked pretty well for me. And you can do it all the way down the board, and this all feels about right. So there's just a little slice of gap that's actually touching, and that's meaning I have to press down a little bit of effort. So if you had the nut slots, you can just file just a little bit, and then that click would be basically sitting right on the fret, which is about where you want to be. Again, we want to just keep checking with our tuning and making sure that all is well. And all the way across the board, they're about where I would expect them to be as far as how far the tuning is out. Not a lot. So the other thing that you can do, and the way that I like to do this now, is actually with a set of feeler gauges. And I actually do have a couple of them, but the small ones work really well for this because you don't have to have this big, long feeling gauge. But there's actually 3 gauges that I will more often than not reach for. And that is a 20 thou, an 18 thou, and a 16 thousandth of an inch. I set them up kind of like a little T. And I do it just like this. And this is also, actually Music Nomad has a tool now. I can't remember what it's called, but they have a tool that's kind of copying this method. This is generally a preferred way of doing it for a lot of techs. And I was shown this one and I just like it. It's very similar to what I was just showing you, but you're actually using a measuring gauge. But at the end of the day, the way that I do all of my measurements and work and stuff is I go by feel. I'm a guitar player first, I'm a repair tech second. So even though it's recommended to be to this spec or that spec, I'll just play the guitar. The guitar will tell you if it's going to feel good or not. And so what we'll do is just set this up on the first 2 frets. It basically goes 2 strings per gauge. So 20 thousandths of an inch, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm just going to basically press this underneath the string and the first fret. And it's kind of doing the same thing when we were sitting here and clicking it. What we're doing is putting it under here, and I should be able to tap it just behind the nut and have the same kind of relevance. So I don't really want this huge gap where I can see this string coming down to it. It should basically slide right underneath that string and not lift the string up, because that would tell us that our nut slot might be a little too low, it cut too deep. So if we put the nut file just behind it, or sorry, the feeler gauge just behind it, and touch that in, then that one actually is pretty good. And then our A should be out just a little bit, which it is. But it's like a stroke. It's not anything actually too dramatic. So what I'm going to do on that one is actually not worry about it. I'll take the string off and cut that one. So the first 2 strings, you use the 20 thousandths of an inch. The second one, the next 2 strings, you're going to do 18. And so we'll do the same thing, press it down on the first, and then I'm pressing down on the third. So these are like really, really, really minor. This isn't anything too dramatic. So what I'm just gonna do so far is I'm just gonna take the strings off. When the strings are off, I'm just gonna give it like 1 pass with the file, and that should actually do it. And then on these ones, we want to do the first 3 strings coming from the top, and then the next 3 we measure from the bottom, but I'm still at 18 thousandths, so I'm going to come up from the bottom and do the same thing. So that one actually needs a couple strokes, so let's do that one. So that should be about an 18. And if you don't have the exact, I mean, if you have no nut files, then that might be a bit of a thing. But if you don't have the appropriate size and you're really close, like I have a 17, I don't actually have an 18. So what you kind of do is push it through a little bit here. And then you go just a little bit on an angle. And that will give you just the width that you're looking for. Also, that was quite pinched. And this is actually thinner than what the string gauge is supposed to be. So that actually might have been the problem, is that the nut slots weren't even wide enough to get the string in there. If that made sense. So now we'll tune this back up. And we'll come in with our feeler gauge. So 18. On the first. There we go. That's good. That's all it needed. It just needed a little bit more than one. And then the last two we're measuring with 16 thousandths, and we just come in. So these ones need a little bit. So the B needs a couple strokes, and the E is probably going to need like one stroke. So we'll do the same thing. Loosen the B out. B should be somewhere around a 13. No, 11s. It should be about a 14. But I've got a 13, so we'll do the same thing. We'll kind of just file it in. So that one at least fits in. The 17 didn't fit in there, so I think that actually was what was holding that out. Like I said, the tuning isn't substantial, but it's enough that's noticeable. And if all of those are wavering a little bit, if they're flat or sharp, and you start playing a chord, especially in the open positions, the first couple of frets, you're going to hear that your guitar is out of tune. So though it doesn't sound like it's out by a lot, it all kind of adds up, right? So there's our B, so let's check and see what's going on with that. Yep, that's good. And now checking on with the tuner. I didn't actually do that on the G, so I'll do that next. So our intonation is just a hair out, so that should translate to this nut, which it does. So when I adjust the intonation on this point, that will balance out the nut. This was actually out by quite a bit. And I also did that on G, so let's check G. This is actually the problem string, so that it's bang on intonation. It's perfect on here. I actually run two tuners, and neither of them are even moving, so it is absolutely perfect in tune up there. So actually we need just a little bit more to go on the G here, which is kind of funny because by measuring, it doesn't actually really look like it we do. So that's kind of where I'm saying like your feel and your touch come into play, more so than a measurement or, you know, the way that it says even from manufacturers. So, and typically when you're looking at the tuning, it's the first couple of frets. Third, fourth fret, they'll start to kind of taper out, and then now the intonation point at the back of your bridge is what's taking over for the tuning. So, but yeah, a lot of people kind of get confused on that first step on why it doesn't really quite work. So let's just do another maybe stroke on the G. So we'll get this one kind of playing well. And then the other ones I'm not really too worried about because they were just enough. And I've already fixed two of them just by even kind of filling it in here. So I literally went through twice. 1, 2. That's it. That's all I'm doing. It's very easy to go too far, and now you're on a whole other mission. Okay, so I'm not really going to worry about the feeler gauge, because the feeler gauge actually say that all is well. And there we go. Now we're in tune. Yep. Actually, that B might need another stroke here. So our G is good, and now we're going to move on to the next one. There we go. Now that's cut. I find that these first two slots are really next to impossible to file using a sanding file. Not the easiest thing to cut unless you have a really strong, solid one. There we go. Bang on. I'm just curious, actually. Yeah, so maybe we will go touch the other ones. Just to make sure, just to look at them on the tuner. Might as well. So the E actually is pretty good here. We're not looking too crazy on this. He's good. So, need a little bit here. So that should be a 49. There we go. E is good. Yeah. They all need a little stroke, but might as well just do it and check it on with the tuner. And because I knew they all needed one, I wasn't going to do that, but it's probably for the best. Good. The D needs a little stroke. So what might have happened too, this guy said that when I picked this one up, he was saying that he got it not too long ago. He bought it online, and he's just noticed that it's a little out of tune, which also makes sense because it also makes sense because it's yeah, like he bought it. I don't know if he bought it used or whatever. It looks like it's been used. But this guitar isn't going to come with 11s. 11s is a step up in string gauge. For whatever reason, you like the tightness, you like how thick it is, you like the sound of it. But that's part of getting the guitar set up for how you want to play it. So we want to play this in a standard, well, it isn't standard tuning, but the 11s are just a thicker string, so the whole guitar needs to be set up for that. So our saddle slots will probably be, if you had slots, that would be something you'd have to look at. Obviously our nut slots are causing a bit of an issue here currently, so that's what we're just doing, is just widening them, allowing for the thicker strings to get in there. And then also, excuse me, the neck will be pulled differently and so forth. So it's a really good thing to get all that stuff set up for the gauge that you're on, as well as versely when you change gauge. So if you're set up to 11s or 12s and then you want to go back to 9s, you're gonna have to get the guitar set up again. Whether you can do it yourself or have to bring it to somebody, that's another story, but that's what's gonna help the guitar just play in tune. If you're one of those bands that like to, or players that like to be in tune, I've heard bands that don't like to be in tune, that's for sure. So I have a little bit of string buzz noticeable now. And that also checks out. So I was just gonna say our next couple of notes are flat. So when I'm playing 2nd fret, 3rd fret, they're actually, when I'm here, 1st fret was bang on, 2nd fret was a little flat, 3rd fret was a little flat, and then my intonation point is flat. So you're changing the whole geometry of the guitar. So that all, like I said, it all checks out. I think the G was good. Let's just double check it while we're here. This was good. Now it's out again. Sweet. And we'll give that another stroke in just a sec. Okay, so the G needs a little bit more. Sometimes, for whatever reason, and every bridge is different, which is also the super fun thing about all this, is sometimes when you get the lower strings together, or the higher strings, whichever way you're going, and you dial them all in, and the action and all that stuff feels great, and you're fine-tuning it, and then you get to the other side of the bridge, and now your beginning steps are actually flat, or sharp, is a really fun and can be obviously incredibly annoying to do. I'll just give that B a stroke when you're taken down. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good about this, so now I'll just do the B and the E when we are cleaning this up. So I'm just actually going to take my cable out. And wind my way out. Actually, what I should do is mark my mat. That would be smart. And if I mark the mat, then I know where to put the guitar, and then you can see what it is that I'm actually doing. So, I am in the middle of shooting actually some videos on how to set up. So obviously better camera angles than this and full explanation and stuff. And I'm doing it on every guitar type, every bridge type. So it's gonna actually be, it's funny, I was just like, oh, I'll just do it real quick, it'll be super easy. And then I actually put some thought into it and I was like, wait, there's actually quite a few. So, and again, it's one of those things where I'm not saying that other things that are out there, obviously there's a lot of videos out on how to do really a lot of this stuff. And I'm not trying to take away from it or anything. I'm just, here's the way that I do it. And then if you are enjoying what you're seeing on the page and all that kind of stuff, then it's just like a one-stop. I've got it all there. I don't have to, you know, link or go find other videos kind of thing. So look forward to that. Obviously, that's all going to be on YouTube. And then the live streams, I think I'm going to start going kind of like once a week. And I normally do, and that actually might be tomorrow's stream, is I know I have some fret work to do. I do have a refret, and I do have a guitar that I pulled out. It was actually going to be the first one I started with, and the frets are incredibly flat. It needs a crown and a fret level. So tomorrow I actually might do a stream on fretwork and on those two. And it's kind of the same thing, just some camera setup. I'll have to set it up on the bench behind me though, because I don't normally do that stuff on this bench. This is like my main setup bench, and I do all of that messy stuff on another bench behind me. So I'll have to see if I can figure that out for tomorrow. But in any case, I will eventually do a video on that as well. And again, there's a million videos out there, and I'm not saying that there isn't. That should do the trick there. Gotta just clean up as I go here. So the other thing that is cool about this, and kind of what I'm looking forward to, is actually hearing videos and concepts of what it is that you would like to see and learn about. I still find it funny that some of my bigger videos on a couple other platforms are like the super basic ones that I kind of glaze over, but it also makes sense. You know, like it's actually how to set up a Floyd, and I did a video on setting up a Floyd Rose, and it was just kind of a quicker format. I did it on TikTok, and it seems to be doing okay. It's not even about the content. I was just trying to see if the short form was kind of fun, and actually I did enjoy it, but also that one like exploded. I had a couple of them based on that. How to tune a Floyd Rose, how to restring a Floyd Rose. I haven't done the setup one, but that kind of got me to thinking about doing a setup series. So now I'm going to be doing a big series. I've got quite a few videos planned for that actually. There's going to be kind of the basics, like how to adjust a truss rod and so forth, and then each guitar will be kind of defined. So in this case, we've got a Telecaster, so we have a body through, so the strings come up. Some of the tele bridges, the strings will come through on the back. So it's kind of like that. So here's, if you have a Telecaster, here's the kind of basic Telecaster versions you'll see. And then you'll just have the ability of kind of following along. So that's an idea. That's kind of what I'm looking to be working on. So we'll see how that all goes. Okay, so if you didn't notice, or if I did, I think I did it off just the angle there, but I did just give those nut slots just a quick little file just because I'm doing it. And now what I'm gonna do is I will switch you over to this view, and I'll keep just slightly out of focus because you can't really see what I'm doing anyway. And I'm just going to give the frets a quick polish. So what I do on this is I actually will throw some tape because I start with steel wool, and that just takes off the abrasion. Steel wool is totally fine to use. There's a lot of people that don't like using it, and that's fine. But what you need to be able to do is control the dust, because you do not want any of that to go into your pickups, because it can actually short them out. It can cause all sorts of damage. So I just put some tape on top of the pickup, and then I will be able to use the steel wool. And then I just use a little guide just to kind of cover and protect the fingerboard. And that removes kind of the big burrs and all the gross stuff that's sitting on top of the fret. And then I come back and actually polish it. So you can kind of watch me do that just off in the distance here. Yeah, I'm just using some thick green painter's tape. And just going all the way over the pickup, making sure I'm pressing around on all sides. Oh, actually, I forgot that I have a quiche on. So I'm actually just spraying some lacquer on a headstock. It's a broken headstock, so I'm just going to do that. It'll take me 30 seconds. I'll be right back. So actually, let me switch this back real quick. I'll show. Oh, no, it's okay. You can see it. So this is kind of cool. So obviously, this is a broken Gibson headstock, and it's been broken a couple times before. But what we're doing is the client on this one really wants to see the repair, which I actually think is really cool. It's also obviously less work for me to do. But so what I've done is actually glued it back together. So I've glued it back together, and then there's two maple splines. Actually, maybe this shot might be better. Let's take a look. Is this any better? Oh yeah, that's better. You can see that. So yeah, so what I've done is I've just glued the headstock. It wasn't, oh actually this one was, no, this one wasn't fully separated. It was just loose by a large margin, went all the way back up. So what I did is I glued it back down, and then I added these maple splines, and it's basically acting like a staple going through that. And then what I normally would do is I would just use some sanding sealer or some filler, whichever you prefer. I really am digging the sanding sealer. I use Oxford for all of my finish work and stuff, and it works wonders. It's great. So the sanding sealer is really nice because it fills in all the pores, especially with the mahogany. So then it will allow me to not worry about any sort of dips and divots when I start doing a spray over it. So normally I'll do a couple coats of that and then sand it all out. And then I will then use black lacquer, well obviously whatever the color of the guitar is, but black lacquer, and cover it up. So in this case, he actually wanted to see the repair, which I think is really cool. It just adds to the story. I'm totally for it. I think it looks cool. So then obviously I was trying to sand a little bit creatively. I wouldn't just sand it all off as I normally do, just so that it was kind of a little bit of an eye piece, if you will. So anyway, so that's what that is. And I just sprayed the 9th coat. So this is 3 days I've been spraying lacquer, and it's a really quick thing. I'm only really spraying like this section. And then I let it sit for about a week and a half, and then I'll sand it all up. So anyway, that's what I was just doing. So I'll go put this back on a stand. All right, so back to the fretwork. Oh. And when that's all done, I have a brush, just a paint brush that I use just for fretwork. I'll brush all that off. I sweep and clean the shop actually every day. So I'll sweep this and then clean that up at the end of today. And then for kind of my secret weapon, all I use is a metal Dremel polishing wheel. I know I'm out of focus, but it's okay. I just use a Dremel wheel and some metal cleaning compound. And I'll just run it over the frets real quick and give me a nice sharp finish. hand just came off. Screw holder in here. There we go. Just like that, all done. So you can see there's a really nice shine coming off those frets now. And if I had my, well here, we'll see if this blows it out. I don't think it should, but you can really see the shine coming off of them, which is great. It's obviously not necessary, but playing with a nice clean crown, so a nice round fret, is going to help you just get better tone and playability coming out. So it definitely doesn't hurt to have that. So I'll just and because the fingerboards on these maple boards are lacquered, generally me coming back and cleaning them, I'm just kind of scrubbing as I go. It's cleaning the fingerboard as well. We're not going to use any sort of lemon oil or anything like that on top. You could spray it with like guitar polish if you like. Some people spritz it with water, which also would work, but more often than not, just kind of coming through. This one I can see that there's a little bit of stuff. Yeah, you can see that it's taken off kind of a lot of grossness, but all of the stuff that I'm seeing stuck to the fingerboard is all coming up. There's nothing that's been left behind. That is one of the, I guess, perks of having a lacquered neck. So typically when you have a maple neck, it is lacquered. Personally, I can't stand a lacquered neck. I'm not a sweaty player, but I just, I stick to it. I don't like the feeling of it. I can't imagine people that sweat a lot. I have a couple clients that have some pretty active glands, and that's one thing that we do to all their guitars is sand them down and just get rid of all that lacquer, because it just turns into basically sandpaper. That their hand just sticks when they come up here trying to play. So, to each their own. As I say, all this stuff, any mod, any pedal, the picks, the strings, everything that you're choosing, the way your pedal board is, what color it is, if you have lights on it, you know, if you wear leather pants or chaps when you're playing. At the end of the day, we're all just using the same G chord. And I always find that comical. And I think it's also more so of a, just remember that. The object of having a guitar is to have fun with it. Yes, it happens to be the way I make the money for me to live, but it's also a pretty sweet job. Not only just teching, but also playing, and then I tech live as well. So that's a really cool thing to be able to do. So another one of my, should have just got this out. Another one of the things I really like to use on, especially on metal, I'll give you one of my secrets, but it actually is this stuff. It's called Never Dull. There's a couple different versions of this out on the market. Basically all it is a all metal polish cleaner, and I use this on all of the metal parts. So I won't touch the fingerboard or the frets. That's what I use the other metal polish for. But I'll actually come back and I'll do the tops of the tuners, and I typically will take the bridge apart, but we'll see if I can get underneath it. There's just a lot of dust and stuff in there, and I like to just take care of that. I like to make it look nice. Might be able to get away with not having to take that off. A little tough to kind of see the results from it, but it does make a substantial difference. I've also used it on some pick guards before too, some black or scratched up ones, and it actually does a pretty good job of restoring it. That's not obviously what its purpose is, but it does a really good job, and that's kind of all the things I'm looking for. Things that make my life easier. Never Dull is one of those things that just makes the guitar stand out. Like already, you might be able to see a difference on that pickup cover. You saw the whole process. I wiped it on, came back a minute later, wiped it all off. Same thing with the bridge here. Come clean. Eliminates all the fingerprints and any of the other schmutz that will be on there. So I normally will clean kind of playing position first. So I'll come back with some polish and just clean this part of the pick guard. And then I will, you know, restring it, set it up, do all that stuff, and then I come back and clean the rest of the body. I don't clean it off the top. It's just a weird thing I do, I guess. I just like the satisfaction of a really nice, clean guitar. Actually, one of my favorite things is to give a guitar back when the case is open. Wow. Or it's never looked like that. Or I can't believe you got that out. I like those. So I'm just trying to get this under the saddles. That would be neat if I can. But I did get the majority of that bridge. I mean, look at that. Looks great. And then even if I get fingerprints and stuff on this, coming back with the cloth, all of that kind of gunk has been removed, so it's pretty easy to do. I think I felt that these tuners were loose. So this is all steps that I do in a setup. If the bridge was really bad, I actually do take the whole thing apart. I take it all the way back down to the saddles, because there's a good chance that if it's in that kind of rough position or rough playability, that the guitar isn't going to be playing its best. You're going to have some weird issues with it. So one of the things that I will often do, is that the right one? Never is. Oh, actually that is. Yeah, I have a couple loose ones. Yeah, some of them I'll actually take the whole bridge out. Like trems I've actually taken out of the body, take them all the way down to the saddle. If it's a really, really, really gross guitar, which I get those from time to time, they're not my favorite. Wipe your hands when you're done playing your guitar. But when I do that, sometimes I'll actually even pull out my ultrasonic cleaner, which is probably the best $40 that I've spent. Kind of end the statement there, because it's incredible on how much of a difference that stuff makes. And it just kind of like removes all of the, you know, years of grime and stuff sitting in the tuners. And then when I get to put it all back together, I lubricate everything, and then it's flawless. And then when I'm actually going to go set it up and playability and all that kind of stuff, it actually stands out, and you notice it. So actually, I'll just give it like one spritzer. And that should be enough moisture to kind of get down the whole fingerboard. All right, there's that part. Actually, I shouldn't have got rid of the actually got rid of the Neverdull, because I'm going to need it again in just a moment. The backs of the tuners. Because the same thing, I don't do the backs of the tuners because when I'm done stringing it, I'm going to be tightening it and moving it all up and down and stuff. So I'll come back and actually change that. But yeah. Oh, strings are right here. So the way that I always like to do this style of bridge, so if I was doing like a trem or body through, I'll actually just put all the strings in at once, just because it makes it a little bit easier to. I kind of put it in the position it needs to be in, and then I don't have to keep lifting it all up. But you do what you need to do. Yeah, 11s on a telly are, that's dedication. That would sound great. I absolutely love tellies. It's like honestly the most versatile guitar you could use. Having a telly for sure. Especially if you change the pickups or do some wiring mods or do things like that. I used to have, I've actually gone back to stock just because I like it on my own personal telly, but there was a period of time that I had a 4-way switch in there and I was doing series and parallel, and then I had a coil split and I was doing all this kind of stuff. It was actually before I got into doing all these repairs, and I kind of just bought a kit online and thought it would be the coolest thing. Wasn't very good with the soldering iron, and I mean, it worked. Sounded cool, and I used it for a while, but I have since gone back to stock, and I also like it. But anyway, the point of all that is that you can get some really crazy sounds out of your telly, and if you had to have, in my opinion, one guitar, it would be a telly. I've never really been a huge Les Paul fan myself, personally. Come back here because this is always everyone's favorite conversation piece. So what I do on the bridge is I'm just taking the string and I'm just kind of pulling it straight up. So I'm coming right over the string hole, pulling it up. And then normally what I'm doing for any of these, this style of tuning key, if they're like 6 in a row or whatever, is I'll actually go about 2 inches or 2 tuners away. So I kind of like gauge this. So I'd cut it somewhere around here. It doesn't have to be flawless. There's 2 things that you definitely want to make sure when you're putting strings on a tuner. One is that you don't have the whole string and it's all this huge mountain of string. You don't need that much. And also any form of lock or tying it into a knot is absolutely absurd, and stop doing that immediately. I don't understand that. And the funny thing is that every time that I get one of those guitars in the shop, I will be like, oh man, this is how they strung it up. Okay, watch out for the string end because it's going to be sharp. And sure enough, it gets me every single time. So this is a pretty high ratio. So I won't add as much slack on the next string. This is a fair amount of winds. And then I just do a really kind of quick string bend. I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm not, wrapping it around. I'm not twisting it. I've seen people like take a whole fist and kind of bend it like this. But what's happening is you're putting all these kinks in the string, which we're not really looking for. I'm just trying to take out some of that elasticity from it, and then bring it close up to pitch. Oh, actually, there's one thing I wanted to do before I do this. Just add some tension to this. Because I was filing the nut slots, I always like to use this stuff. It's the Mitchell's abrasive cord, Comes in all sorts of different varieties. I don't know what happened to my smaller sizes. I think one of my buddies took them on tour with them. Yeah, it's just basically kind of like floss, and you just rub it in the slots. And I have a thin one and I have a thick one, so I kind of just do 3 and 3. So the thinner one will take care of my E, B, and G strings, and then the thicker one will take care of D, A, and E. You just run it back and forth and you'll kind of feel it catching because it is acting as like sandpaper. And I kind of just come from all the different angles, trying to make sure there's no burrs or anything that the string is going to get caught in. It makes a world of a difference. And then some people too really enjoy using like a lubricant of some sort, either nut sauce or Big Ben's. Well, it's the same thing. Music Nomad makes some stuff too, which I think I've got sitting here. But I don't know. I guess it depends on the guitar, but I don't find myself reaching for it very often, to be honest. If you've widened the frets, or the nut slots rather, and you've kind of done this step, and I'm kind of bending around it, so I'm making it loop around the nut slot this way, or string hole this way, and then I come this way. So I'm kind of like measuring it in an arc, and I'm kind of bending it. I don't know if you can see that. I think you can see that. So I'm kind of like bending it back, and then I'll bend it back the other way as well. So I'm kind of opening up the slots on either end as well. Nothing dramatic, but it's just enough that the string won't get caught. And sometimes you can hear it where your guitar will kind of sound like a sitar, so it has that resonant effect. And that, more often than not, is either that the string is sitting too low or that the string doesn't have a clean slot. It's just getting pinched and bound in there somewhere. And sometimes you'll also see it on the bridge end of your guitar as well. But all that really is, more often than not, is just that the nut slot needs to be cleaned and lubricated, if you wish. So that will do that. Now I can put that string in. Now on to the B. So I'm not going to go quite as much, but I'm still kind of taking a visual note of like the two tuners, and then I'll kind of add that. And I'll just cut a little bit closer to that mark than I did last time. It's because I don't want all this string sitting on there. And I'll show you when I get to the thicker string, it'll be a little bit easier to see. But I'm just having the tail come out just a little bit, and then I go over and under. And then all of my other winds are under. And I'll explain that in just a second when I get to probably the E or A string. And when it gets close to full tension, so I'm a couple fingers off the fingerboard, is when I try to actually do some bends. And then I will be able to eliminate any of that extra string movement that we don't need. Pop that under. The next one. So same thing, I'm going the two pegs, just moving it up. And they'll come in just a hair from that point. And then we'll be good. I have a little bit of a tail, and I'm going over the tail, I'm going under, and then every wind is under that one. And when I get close to tension, which is somewhere around there, then I'll start to move it. Or sorry, start to bend it rather. Will be good. Next string, and then we'll get to the setup part. So the setups move pretty quick, actually. I guess it helps when you've done a few thousand of them, but it is a fairly straightforward process so far what we've done. And then we'll get to, and I think that's another reason why a lot of people like tellies, not only by playing but also building and everything else, is that they don't have as many moving parts. So if you're doing like a tremolo bridge, or especially like a Floyd Rose or Evertune or something like that, there is so many moving pieces, and it can be very confusing to kind of get in the middle of. So when you're using this, or sorry, when you have basically a big slab of wood, which is what a telly is, there's really only going to be kind of one, maybe two different styles of a bridge you're going to encounter traditionally on a telly. I personally actually want to make a telly and put like some sort of Bixby on it, just something ridiculous, just for the fun of it. But when you have this kind of running through, you'll be able to have a different side on it. So but yeah, they're really quick and easy to kind of set up. They're really quick and easy to kind of get in playing into a good, comfortable feeling as well. So one little thing that you can do kind of as a trick is that I'll actually take the string, put it where it's supposed to be, and then just kind of run it along, like when there's 6 in line. Then I can kind of easily see, oh, that's my two tuner mark. And then the E, I don't normally go quite that much. Actually, I can probably cut a little bit more of this off. I don't need quite that much. So we'll come in this way. A little bit of a stretch. So yeah, so that's what I'm doing here now that we can kind of start to see the strings. So when I'm anything body through, I'll do this. I'll pull the string all the way to the end. I'm just making sure I'm pulling straight up. And you should be able to hear as well as feel the ball end hitting underneath the bridge. Or underneath the body, I guess, depending on which way you're coming at it. And so then for the 6 string or the big string or whatever you want to call it, that's a funny thing, actually. That's one thing that I've never understood. Is some people call it the 1st string, and some people call it the 6th string, and it's like just an E string, just the big E string, man. So yeah, the very low string, I don't go 2 tuners. I normally actually just go the 1. So let's see if I can actually get a decent view on this. So what I'm doing is the string is through the hill, and I have through the hole rather. And I have just a very small amount of string poking through. And I kind of will bend the string coming back the other way. And then okay. I will be right back. A little bit of a scheduling snafu there. Anyway, so yeah, you just kind of run this through, put the big string, and I have just this tail coming in, and then what I'm going to do is pull back. So the string's coming in this way, and I'm just pulling back, so I'm creating a really sharp V here, and I'll just keep that tension on, and I wind it. And then when I get to the overlap, I'm going to be on the upside of the tail. So the tail is poking through, and I'm running the string on top of it. So I do that for the first one. And then I go underneath. So now I'm underneath that, and now these two winds are pinching that tail together. And then I'll just keep winding the string down the post. So then I get to that kind of tension, then I come through. Bring it up to pitch. Okay, so now I can get so now we have it tuned. And that does not feel good. The action is very low, that's good, but it doesn't actually feel good. There's some weird issues coming in there, and we'll see what we can actually accomplish. So more often than not, you will have to adjust this, because even when you have it all set up and you take the strings off, it will kind of shift and move a little bit. That's just nature of the wood. That's what the wood's going to do to you. So yeah, I like to tune it up first, and then the way that I do setups is that I put it in. Everyone's got a little bit of a different way to do it, it seems. But I like to put the strings on, bring it up to pitch, and then it's good to go. Flashing here. What was that? a very big message in OBS saying that my health isn't good. Yeah, so what we'll do is now start setting it up. So I put the strings on first, bring it up to pitch, and then I'll be able to start adjusting it accordingly. So have this here. E. All right, so now that we have it so yeah, the action on that is quite low. Obviously I haven't touched the bridge or done anything yet, but it is not feeling all that great. So even, it's funny, because even with people that like low action, me often fixing the problem of playability and stuff like that, I actually raise the action. More people don't even know about it, but it's just it's the trigonometry of everything, or the geometry of everything, putting it all together. So anyway, so we need to bring the action up, so that's good. We did lower it a little bit too, because we did follow the nut slots, so that probably has dropped it a little bit as far as the string action goes. But now the next thing is we'll grab our string action gauge and just kind of put it back in working order and see kind of how far we have to go out on that. So I'm just going to come up a little bit. I'm not going to go crazy, but it will make the guitar feel a little bit better than what it currently does. Now, the only negative that I have on tellies is I am not a fan of, I know they're traditional, but I'm not a fan of these, the traditional 3 saddles. So basically you have one screw that is holding the points of 2 intonation, and now there's all sorts of different viewpoints that they have that you can change the intonation and that kind of stuff on it. But often you'll have this really weird thing where you have to go and kind of compromise between the 2 strings and find that one of them is better than the other. So that's never, I don't know, it's just not my favorite thing to do personally. So that's kind of what's happening here. And so in order to adjust the string action, when we start doing that, obviously it's going to make your next string flat or sharp, whichever way you're going there. So let's see where we are height-wise. So we've gone a little bit higher here. Start bringing this up a little bit. So actually these ones, now that I'm saying that, these ones actually are a little bit different because they do have kind of like a higher mark on them, which actually is cool. Meaning that they're kind of compensating for the height difference between the strings as it is. That makes it definitely a little bit more playable. I don't have to go crazy, but I am just bringing it all up because it's sitting a little low. And then we'll start to kind of add this shape back into the saddles again, and then we can go back to the intonation parts of it. So I seem to be having a little bit of data issues, so I apologize if the lag is, or the stream's a little bit laggy there, but thanks for being here either way. I am going live to YouTube and Twitch, so that might be part of it. Every once in a while it seems to have some weird issues with packets, but in any case. That actually feels quite a bit better. So now we will go on to the next step, and that is just check our intonation, and then as we're kind of doing that, it probably will start to fluctuate a little bit, which, like I said, is one of the drawbacks on the vintage saddles. This is the reason why I'm not a huge fan of them myself, but it's also knowing what it is that, like, what the it's also knowing what the the issue is, so that you know how to solve it. So that definitely took me a while to realize, and it's, you know, you make the one string perfect, and then the other one just couldn't quite get there, and so I was like, what is going on here? So thankfully, in this case, they are actually both out. So we will just bring this back. So they are showing sharp, which means that the string is too short. So we're going to move it back, and that will just add some string length to that. Generally, like a half a twist, we'll be able to get what we need. So we'll come back to standard pitch, or whatever your tuning is. Check your intonation. We're closer. Okay, so our A is perfect, and our E is a little out. You can actually even hear that. And we still have some weird fret height stuff too. So I can actually straighten the neck a little bit. Just give it a little bit of a twist. It's going to be this or the. So I'm just on this end, and I'm just going to tighten it just a little. Oh, actually, it's very loose. And tighten it just a touch, and that should be just enough for us to get in there. Yep. So I have a little bit of up bow. I actually see a little bit of a twist here too, but I'm looking at a little bit of up bow at this end, and now but it also kind of flattens out over the rest of the fingerboard, which is good. But yeah, we have a little bit of a twist. So this section's a little bit, this one's a little bit of an up bow, and over here we have a little bit of an up bow, and then we have the opposite happening here. And the way that I do that is I like to just sight down the neck. So I'll actually just hope it up, and I'm using the string as a straight edge. And I'm just kind of looking right down the edge of that, and I'm checking to see that the string and the fingerboard match. And you can kind of see the angles and which way they go. So you may often see people doing that when they're looking at guitars, and every once in a while I get called on that. They're like, what are you looking at? I've never understood that. Just checking it out. But so back in playing position, we will put this back into tune. And actually, we are sharp again, so I'm going to come back a little bit, and that should solve actually both of our strings. There you go. Okay, cool. 2 down, 4 to go. Okay, so I'm getting fret buzz the whole way down. So I'm just going to bring this up just a hair more. The middle of the neck doesn't have much of a bow. As I was saying, we have a little bit of a twist on the edges. Bring this back down to pitch. So they are both out just a hair now, so they are sharp. And we need to make our string longer, so I'm going to bring the saddle back, make our string longer. And it's not even an eighth of a turn that I did. That was a very, very minor turn, and they are out substantially. I don't know if you can actually hear the difference on that, but looking at a tuner, they are quite a bit different from where they were. And there you go. Those are done. On to the last two. It's nothing I would be worried about. Yeah, nothing to worry about as far as fret buzz goes. So we have just a hair, but it's like up kind of in solo region. I'm not going to worry about that. That's totally fine. That's acceptable. Some string buzz is a little acceptable. I mean, you may get told otherwise, but like I said, the guitar feels a million times better than what it did. And all we did was a very slight adjustment to the truss rod. That's why it's so powerful to be able to do these types of things. And that's kind of the whole point of these live streams, is so you can kind of learn these steps as well and do this to your own guitar at home. But all we really did is adjusted our saddle height a touch and adjusted our truss rod ever so slightly, and it's made like a crazy difference to the playability of your guitar. Whether you are a pro or not, I mean, that's for the most part is irrelevant. Some players obviously can notice that better than others, but there's also a part where people just kind of become accustomed to how their guitar plays. They don't know that it could be any better. They're just like, well, that's the way I bought it, and that's what it is. And it's like, well, no. Like, it's like when you buy a used car and there's a rattle, and you're like, well, that's what the car does. And you take it to a mechanic, and you're like, oh, actually, it's missing a part, or whatever. Then all of a sudden they get that repaired, and you're like, oh, that's actually what it's supposed to sound like. So, okay, so that's the last two strings. So again, all of it was just a touch sharp. Meaning that the string length was just a little too short. So I just moved the saddles back just a little bit, but that's our intonation. And we adjusted the truss rod just a little bit, and now I'm doing kind of a final tune. Kind of a little bit of a play here. So the other thing is too, is like, I have to remember, and that's the reason why I write these specs down before I begin these. The action was actually quite a bit lower than what it is here. I actually raised the action, and then again adjusted our heights of things, but the action now is higher than what it was before, and it feels better. And it's not my personal touch, it's just that you're not fighting all of these different angles. You're not fighting that the truss rod is coming up, so you have this big up bow, and then the saddles were lower to bring the string action down, if that makes any sense. So the string action here was actually high, and that's because the truss rod was actually too loose. There's no tension on it, so it was actually being lifted up. So now when you when you tighten that down and lower the saddle, now you're balancing out that angle. So anyway, that's kind of like the whole part of it, and you're just balancing all of those moving parts on your guitar. But the reason why I'm saying that is because I'm still getting a little bit of string buzz, but it's better than what it was when it was brought to me. And the only thing that was the issue and the complaint was that the G was a little sharp. And at the beginning of all this, we started by filing the nut slots for the thicker string gauge. So, you know, nothing crazy, but we just knew what to do. That's good. That is a GG. That is a good guitar. So what we'll do now is just the final kind of touch up, and then this is ready to go home. Which is great. That's what I'm looking for. Man, that was a hectic little section of things happening there. Okay, so we have this, we have this. So it's cool when you're able to find kind of the problems. And sometimes, you know, it's a buzzword that people don't fully know, and that's okay too. So you hear someone else, or you're on a forum or whatever, and someone uses some sort of buzzword, such as setup. Setup is such a funny thing because, you know, to most people, myself and perhaps yourself included, being a guitar player and stuff, I mean, I imagine you have some sort of interest in guitars by watching this. But there would be a thing where you know what's happening, and you don't really know how to fix your problem, or that you do know how to fix the problem and you're not really too sure where to begin, or that you just know it's not right and you can't really pinpoint what the issue is. So again, it's just one of those things where you kind of find the best way to make your way through everything. I have just found, for me, I like to go in that system. It's a little bit different than some people, because some people actually start with string height, which I think is weird. Only because it doesn't make any sense in my head, because you're working against yourself in a sense, because you would have to come back and change it anyway when you adjust the truss rod, if you have to adjust it. So anyway, this is just the way that I do it. Works for me. What we'll also do, actually, I'll just take a quick peek at the tuners on the back. I don't know if they're really bad. A little bit. So what we'll do is we'll pull out our Never Dull again. We'll just kind of quickly wipe this. Backs, underneath, in between. Yeah, this stuff is great because it takes off oils and stuff, which obviously is generally created by our fingers, which is the reason why I leave this step to the last. Because now that I've done tuning it and I got my hands all over it, then I'm not adding to any of the schmutz. And it's funny, even when you're doing all this and you give it back to your client, like 5 minutes, and it will be back to the way it was. Fingerprints and smudges, but it's okay. It's that quick little satisfaction. For me, I love when someone opens the case and they go, whoa, which happens often because it's just polished. It doesn't, And I'm not going crazy out of my way to make that happen. Sometimes I do, obviously, depending on what the condition of the guitar is, but more often than not, it's just a quick little wipe down. I have a little bit actually sitting up here, now that I say that. Did I get it? Yeah, I got it. I had a little bit on the pickguard I can see. And there you go. That one's all done. So we'll throw this one back in the case and move on to the next one. Cleaning up as I go here, because if I don't, start driving me crazy. I never really used to do this and like completely clean my bench every single time, because it's like I'm about to pull all those tools out on the next guitar, but it's I don't know, I seem to be digging it. A messy shop doesn't really bother me, but even when I'm looking at, you know, everything that I've got going on here, so it's a little blurry behind me, but it's like even on the bench behind me, I'm doing a neck reset right here, and so I've got a little bit of sandpaper and I got a chisel out, and that's it. The rest of the bench is clean, and then that's all. Actually, here's some tools that I don't need. Back in the bin you go. There you go. Okay, cool. So we are going to jump on to the next one. What is the next one that we're going to do? Let's take a look. I guess we'll pull out one of these Les Paul Juniors. I got two of them. So this one is the double cut. So it's got the two cutaways here, and that's what's going to denote it as such. Just trying to find the repair tag here in one sec. texted me on this one. This is also the reason why I really like using my software, because I can add all these notes, because I get information thrown at me from all sorts of different directions. Les Paul Junior slide setup open E. Cool. All right. There's that there. Refresh that. Okay, I'm a little scatterbrained today. I apologize for that. I'm all over the place. And then I forgot well, I didn't forget, but I forgot to go pick up my kid. He gets dropped off up front, so my little strummer, and I had to go pick him up. So ever since then, I've been all kind of like razzled. I think I need to just go make a coffee while I do that. But what I'll do is we'll just measure this intake real quick. So this up. I'll take a quick peek. Oh, that is low. Holy moly. So we are running at 2/64. That is slow, or that is low for many things. Well, that sounds like an open tuning. Sharp. Yeah, okay, so we're gonna open E here. Cool. B, E. Yeah. And then string gauge on this. Oops, if you turn it on first. 9 to 42, so that's pretty thin. Especially for, well, actually open E isn't too bad, but if you're gonna be dropping that, that would be too light. That would probably not feel very good. Should be strings in another case here, so we'll pull those out in just a sec. All right, so I got that marked. Come back here. Cool. So as I do, I check everything with the strings on. I'll just check playability and you know, if the electronics work. A little bit easier, because especially here I have to take the pickguard and stuff off when I'm getting to that. So if I take all the strings off, I don't know if the electronics are going to work. So I do all this when it's all off. Nice thing about a single pickup, you got one volume, one tone, that's it. Oh, that sounds so cool. So we're going much heavier strings in the same tuning, so that actually should make that growl even more. Cool. All right. So yeah, it works. Doesn't feel good, but it's okay because we are changing that drastically. So I'm not really too worried about intonation and stuff like that because we're gonna have to change all that. So we also have a fun one because this is gonna be a wraparound bridge. So I'll show you a little trick that I like to do on these, and we'll start this off. Kind of coming through here. So yeah, they're different string gauge anyway, so I'm not going to worry about this. So like the last one, what I was just saying is that I don't like to do any sort of nut filing with the new strings on. In this particular case, we are going to be doing that with the new strings. So it won't be a lot. It's going to be the same thing of what we had to do, just a couple of strokes, just to kind of get it a little bit wider. So currently there's 9 sitting on this. We're going to 11s. So there will be a little bit of a difference there. And if we don't file those nut slots, so if you home are changing the string gauge drastically, what happens is that it's pinching it's preventing the string from going into the nut slot. So it's been intonated with it sitting in the optimum position over the first fret. If you don't do that and it holds the string at a higher point, it's actually going to be sharp in the first couple of frets. It may work for your intonation at the 12th fret, but those first frets, the string is going to be too high off the fingerboard and it'll be sharp, which is the issue we had on the last guitar. So that's just one thing to kind of keep in mind. If you are going to string your and change the gauge, then that is something that you generally need to do as well. So yeah, we'll take this off. And again, I'm not terribly worried because all this stuff is going to change, but I like to just kind of take a look at the neck. The neck actually looks really good. It's got a bit of a bow in it, but as far as just the plainness, there isn't any sort of weird edging, lifting frets and stuff like that. So that actually looks really good. So we will take that off. Yes, if you are here checking this out, I appreciate you being here. Don't forget to like the stream and stuff. It just kind of helps more people find this. It's interesting at these beginning stages because I don't know how well the live streams are going to be. It's really, I'm doing the live streams because I'm sitting here working anyway. So I'm kind of just like talking my way through them. I probably won't be doing this on a regular basis, like, 3 times a week kind of thing. I'll probably just be doing it once a week or maybe once bi-weekly and kind of wait for kind of a multitude of guitars. As I said at the very top, I actually had quite a bit of bigger jobs that I was doing where I'm routing out and like I'm using Steam and stuff on. I have a couple neck resets happening right now. While it might be kind of fun to watch, it's not the easiest thing audibly because you have all of this tooling and stuff happening in the background. So it's kind of the reason why I haven't done those. But I do film those as far as like larger and longer form content. So that's all over on YouTube, if you are checking that out. And I'm also kind of working on a series of setup videos as well. I don't know how many of the kind of like how-to like training videos. I do repairs, so like as I'm repairing a guitar, I'll kind of walk you through my steps. But as far as big angles and here's how we do, I don't have a lot of those. But I am starting to kind of think about that and get quite a bit more in play. So so this might be a little challenging to get on the camera, but out of here. Wait. But let's see if I can get it. It might just be reflecting here. So sure is. Can I even get even closer? Not really. So what I was trying to show you is the way that I like to do wraparound bridges, because what often happens is the strings aren't necessarily built for this, and I was going to show you kind of a before and after, but it's not really the easiest thing to do. What if I go on the back of the cloth? Can I help to reflection? Again, not really. Because what I'm trying to do, maybe a little bit. So it's a little bit easier, obviously, on the lower strings here. But what's happening is the wind that's holding all the string in is actually sitting right on the edge of the bridge. So what happens is often is that will actually be a breaking point for the string because you are putting all this tension of the wraparound right on that kink point. So yeah, it's a little challenging to see, but just trying to show you kind of the beginning step of that, because I'll show you the way that I like to do those, which seem to work a little bit better. And sometimes you'll also notice a playing one. This one actually is fine because it isn't actually a wraparound bridge. But sometimes you'll actually get a I love those. Just checking in. Sometimes you'll actually get a like on a standard Les Paul and you do the wraparound on them, what happens is that that wind, not only are you taking the bend in the middle of that, but also it will sit on the top of the bridge, and now you can physically feel that, which doesn't feel very good. So all I do is I just add an extra ball end on the end of these, and then it just kind of changes the bending point on the string. It does sometimes poke out a little bit, but I think that it actually looks and plays a little bit better. So, or sorry, that it plays better. Not everyone likes the look of it, but I'll show you what I do when I get there. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is clean the frets. So I'll throw you on the face cam. Back to the other side. So all I'm doing, slightly out of focus, is same thing. And even though the pickup is way at the back end of the guitar, I am still going to cover this up just with some tape, just so that I don't necessarily have to worry about it. I'm just using my guard and some steel wool. So you can actually see a difference even on the first two frets. So keep in mind, all I've done is some steel wool. But you can see the first two frets are actually, if I can figure out the angle, my goodness. But yeah, you can see that there's just a little bit of a shine off of that. And they're just kind of glistening just a little bit. And I mean, if you don't have any sort of metal cleaner or a polish or a compound, I mean, that will do a great trick. And in this one, the guitar it's a little gross. It's been grimed on. This client just bought this from a friend or online or something. He just bought this anyway. So it's new to him. Yeah, we're just trying to clean it up a little bit. But it's amazing how much just that one step will change the playability and the appearance. Because now I'm not going to get stuck on that. I always find that fascinating, how much of a difference it makes. My way down here. That alone is already a huge cosmetic appearance difference. Wow. But what I'm also going to do on this one is basically scraping it, but I don't use the I don't use a scraper or razor blades. I used to. One of my big tech tips is actually using some scrubbing bubbles, and you just basically on top. I obviously don't do this on vintage finishes or anything like that. I won't come anywhere near it. But honestly, for the 30 seconds that it's sitting on the fingerboard, and then you can scrape it off by basically just wiping it. And it makes a very nice, clean fingerboard at the end of it all. And I tested this on a ton of dummies. You can kind of see them in the backdrop, all these guitars sitting up here. These are all declined work. Actually, not all of them, but some of them are declined work and stuff. They turned into the guinea pigs. So I've even sprayed this stuff and left it overnight, trying to see if it was going to eat through, and it didn't do any damage or any harm. I won't even attempt to do it on a vintage finish, just because I don't need to worry about that. But yeah, actually it's not too bad, but you can see just a difference of the cloth. You can see that there's, you know, some yellowing and stuff, and it just takes off all that grime, and I'm not scraping it with a razor blade. I can't do that anymore. That just makes me really gross and sick. Just, so, just giving these a quick polish. That once, and then on this one I'm also going to, I can see that the fingerboard is pretty dry, so I'm just going to give this a minute. And you can see the difference, like, and what I just rubbed on the first fret's already for the most part evaporated, so it's a bit of a thirsty neck. So I'll let that sit for just a second. I don't let it sit for, you know, an hour or anything like that, but just a minute I'll give it. And what I will do is what we did on the last one. Actually, I won't. I don't need the polish out on this. So I kind of clean the parts. I always clean the parts that are going to be covered by the strings first. Then I'll do the setup, and then at the end, then I'll clean the rest of the guitar. So I'll clean the peg head, and then I'll clean, you know, up into the pickup zone. So I'll clean this area, and then I'll do the bridge and make all that pretty. Then I'll do all the work, and then I'll do the final cleanup after. So I just found that I kind of stopped working against myself, which I'm a big I'm a big fan of not working against myself, so. And that is a pretty substantial upgrade on the fingerboard there. Wow. A little bit of lemon oil, a little bit of fret polish. It's gonna look like a whole new guitar. That. Here. Still a fair amount of schmutz on here. Alright, there we go. Just a little bit behind the wood, and now I'll pull out the Never Dull for the bridge. I always find wraparound bridges to be interesting. Obviously, there's a huge history on it, and now there's a lot of people that really like watching their favorite players, like Joe Bonamassa, for example. He likes to play a wraparound bridge. Personally, I don't like the feeling of it. I don't like the feeling of how the guitar feels, and I also don't like the feeling of my hand sitting on top of the bridge. It's where I always rest my hand, is on top of the bridge, and I don't know. These ones are okay because there's like the notches on there, but like especially if you use kind of your traditional Les Paul bridge, so it's got a stop tail and then it goes over the bridge, you will find yourself running into a weird issue where the you're feeling all those string winds. So the trick that I'm about to show you is the reason why I kind of like doing that. And then you don't feel it as much, but still, I don't know. I don't like that feeling. It's not my guitar, so it doesn't matter. So same thing with these. What I will do is put all of the strings on first, and then I can wrap the bridge up. So this one, he said it's in the other case. Should be this one, I believe. That be the one. And yeah, we got 11 to 52 happening here, so that's definitely going to be a bit of a different feeling than the 9s that are currently, or that was on this guitar. Oh no, I have to... Oh, there's one. Every once in a while I'll go through this and kind of get them all prepped, but what I do is I've got a bunch of, kind of looks like row, but it's all of the string ends, or not all, but I mean that's what this is it's the string ends, and so, actually I could probably cut them off, the strings that he had here. But it's the very tail end of the, of a string end, and what I do is I just kind of cut it off, but the idea is that I'm just taking that ball end off. So now I have just the ball end from the end of the string, and then when you're putting your new string on, I'll show you on the bigger string, it makes sense. Then I actually just put it through, and it sits at the bottom of the string. Like so. Like so. So now I have this extra ball end sitting on the string, and the whole object of this is that it's giving me just that much of a spacer on the back of the bridge. And so now when I put this into the bridge, and I always do this backwards, kind of a force of habit. So the reason why some people don't like this is that you will actually have this little, and I'll throw the other one in there just for comparison. Without the ball end. So when you're looking at the end of the bridge, obviously you have a nice clean one from your strings that don't have it, but you will have this little ball end basically sticking out of the back of the bridge, which to some people doesn't matter, to some people it does. But what we've done is we've spaced the string just enough that when we wrap this over the bridge, we are now eliminating it from bending on that bending point of the string. Like I said, I was trying to hope to kind of get a before and after photo, but didn't really quite work. But you can see the winds, how it's thicker, and then it ends right here. So using this spacer just pushes it back just enough that I'm not wrapping that on the bridge itself. This is again a wraparound bridge, so it's designed to do that, but on some bridges you will actually notice a really big tension point, and that's just because it's bending in a really awkward spot for the string. So I like to just add these little string ends. This particular client loves all those little tips and tricks, so I know he'll be okay with this. He's all about making his guitars play best and feel best, so, which most of us are, obviously. Okay. All right. This has been fun. but I don't know if I have 6 of these available. It's not the end of the world. It just takes me a minute to do them. Oh, there's 3 right there. Those 2 have it, and that's the rest. Okay. So yeah, I like to load this bridge first, and then I'll put it on the guitar. Again, it's for no real sole reason other than it's just easier than having to fight with all the strings and wrap it around and not scratching the guitar. And it's just the way I do it, okay? And then I do go right at the very end. I'll actually come in because the string ends will have, because we're using D'Addario, and of course D'Addario has the colored ball ends. It will be a little bit of a rainbow at the back of the bridge, but we will just line up all the string ends before we put full tension on them, just so that they're all going the same direction. And that's just, again, one of those little attention to detail things that I enjoy doing. Not necessary, but I personally like to think it is. And the last one should have a bowl end around here somewhere. I had it. I had 6. Oh, there it is. So yeah, all that's really done now is just giving us just a little bit of space that it won't be bending around on the winds, and I think it makes a difference. Also, just in the rigidity of the string. I don't know if I even mentioned that, because it's a weak point of the string for it to break there. So, and then again, I do this part with the guitar off, or with the bridge off of the guitar, is that I'm actually wrapping it around. So I'm actually putting that bend in the string currently with it off of the guitar, even just a little bit, just to kind of get me in the ballpark. And the kind of will just naturally go to that position. So I actually just gave him about a half a twist. I just did it when the string was off because, and this is again a reason why I like measuring it when I first bring it in, because I knew that the string action is a little bit too low. So I gave it just about half of a turn on the post because I'm putting the bridge back on. These bridges, you generally have to take the tension off. You don't have to take the strings off the posts, but there isn't really a trick to being able to lift it or take the tension off so that you can make those height adjustments. So that's one of the perks of doing that right off the bat, is that I knew that it's going to have to come up just a bit. So also this is going in, it's turning into a slide guitar anyway, and they want a bit of a higher slide action. So I kind of just took out a good chunk of that before it even got to string tension. So these ones aren't too bad, but if you find yourself having an issue with the bridge kind of like slopping off the guitar because there isn't anything holding it in place, what you can do is just grab the string and come back with just like with a, oh jeez, I broke it. It's just coming back with a capo, and then you can hold the string in place, and now your bridge isn't going to go anywhere. And then you can do a couple other strings, and then when you get there, you can take the capo off. If you find yourself having a problem with that, I will often do that with Bigsby's, because the Bigsby bridge, when it's all rolling around and it kind of just flops in any direction, it can be a little bit of a pain in the butt. So that's definitely a good way of doing that. As I say that. So I'm just holding the string tension this way. So I'm basically holding this in place. And then in just a moment, it will be at tension. So same thing, I have just a little bit of a tail coming out, and then I'm going to wrap this string over, like on top of the tail, and then under. then I take out that stretch. So I'm just making sure I'm keeping the string pressure parallel to the string as well as the fingerboard. Yeah, the only thing about these tuning pegs is sometimes they're really finicky about how much extra you have on here, so. I'm gonna move it forward actually just a little bit more. Because you only can legitimately get maybe one wind on the peg, one full wind on the peg. And then of course I've got all the tuning slack I have to make up for as well, so. So there's that end in place, which is good. And then take out that stretch. And then what I'll do is I'll do the high E string, and now I just have tension on either side. See, I can still move the bridge, even though there is a string in place. So come back here, and I'll cut this just a little bit past that first peg. I'll do the same thing, add just a little bit of a tail coming out. Bend the string basically around into a 45 of itself, 45 degrees. And as I wind, I go over and then under and continue down the post. Also, because this string is a little less, it's a little thinner, I'll try and get a couple winds of the E and the B. Just because, or just to prevent the slipping there, so. All I'm doing right now is just taking an Allen key, running it through all of the ball ends. Because you can see them, I just kind of like to run them. I don't know if you're even going to be able to see that. So yeah, they're all running in the same direction. And then I just have an Allen key. It's a small, thin Allen key, but there is an Allen key sitting there. And that's just to make all of these ball ends look a little bit nicer. If you're not doing that extra ball in the end, obviously that's not a step you have to do because it'll be hidden by the hole inside the bridge. But because it's going to be shown, that's why I'm just making it look a little bit appealing. I don't know if appealing is the right word, but I think you understand. And that just allows them all to be tight and then have the ball in the same direction. So in these ones, I'm going just a little bit past the next post. Same thing, and this should get us 2, maybe 3 winds, which is about perfect for these thinner strings. Going over the tail. I know this is probably not in shot, but no. I'm telling you, that's what I'm doing. And then under and down the post. I'll do the A string. gonna cut it pretty much right behind the post of the following string. You also that was interesting. You also want to make sure that when you are restringing, that all of your string ends and all your winds are happening on the inside of the headstock. Just did as a guitar yesterday, actually. That had him the other way. I haven't seen that for a little while. But you want your winds coming on the inside and on this side of the post. So it's always string, post, string, so string, post. Not, what am I trying to say? Not out, string, post. Because now you get this really weird break angle. But all of the string, actually these two were correct. The last two were correct, but the other four were going in the wrong direction. It was going way over here. And then also your tuning keys are all going in different directions as well. So there you go. Don't do that. So I'm not going crazy here because I also know that I have to do a little bit of nut filing. So I'm leaving myself, like I'm not bringing these all the way up to pitch. I will bring them up to pitch though, because then I can measure the height and where it's sitting and down here. Last string. Oh, actually, it's not going to E, it's going to B. Okay, this actually is looking okay. To be honest, the nut slots on this were a little sloppy, so with the old strings on, which were 9s. Now that we're going to 11s, maybe working out the difference here. Because these are all bang on. Okay. I can handle that. E. Give me E. That was weird. Sounded like it slipped there, but... I'll take a look at this when I get this up to pitch. But I'm not feeling any binding. Binding of strings in the nut. You're cracking and stuff behind me, which is always good. You're not cracking, but... Yeah, so we're just a hair over 4/64ths. So we've come up actually quite a bit. And truss rod for the most part is actually okay. But because this is going to be basically exclusively a slide guitar, I am going to straighten the neck. It has just a little bit of a bow in it. So I will... just take this out. Which then will expose the Gibson Acorn. And that honestly is probably enough. Yeah, it looks to be. There we go. Actually, might be a done deal. Oh, I will say that is really, really cool. Is that intonation points or is that tuning her? Cool. Well, I would say that is a. I would say that's a done guitar. Intonation is actually great on it. We brought those posts up. It happened to be in a really nice position. I am a little rusty. It's been a while since I played slide, but I play it with my pinky, and I always ask that question because, of course, it's different tension. So this allows you to be a little bit more musical behind the slide. And if you're playing a little bit more traditional with on your ring finger, then you're playing it. But it's also quite a bit heavier. Typically, it's a heavier slide. The only reason why I ask that when I'm doing that is because that allows you to know how high it is for slide. Because there's a lot of people that, you know, if you're a fan of Ariel Posen, Joey Landreth, these guys actually use a very low setup action on their guitars. They're not huge and high where traditionally that is where the steel is, especially if you're coming from pedal steel or lap steel, you would actually have a really high action. Your strings are coming really high off the fingerboard. But that feels really comfortable. And it's got the 11s on there, so it feels real good. Yeah, cool. I could play open tuning all day. Yeah, that actually feels really good. So obviously we're a little pitchy there. So it could be the tension of the strings. Yes, so the strings themselves are just pulling. At least enough that is noticeable. There we go. And that's why I don't get a lot of guitars done in a day, because I want to play them all. So, but yeah, I would say that is a done deal. Even if I'm here. That's actually, I mean, I'm not mad about it, but it's kind of crazy that I don't have to do a lot of intonation. And of course, now that I say that, I went, oh yeah, right, I have to do a little bit of intonation. So yeah, with these, basically on this style of wraparound bridge, there is an individual. You just have these two set screws that basically are pressing this whole bridge against these two posts. So in order to make that adjustment, we do actually have to take the tension off of the neck. So it's kind of a pain in the ass because you have to obviously bring that all the way down, take all the tension off, make your small adjustment, tune it up, and hope that you did the right thing. So we're out by just a hair on the low end and quite a bit on the, or quite a bit as far as intonation goes on the higher registers. So we will give this probably about a quarter turn and maybe about half of a turn on the treble side here. So that's still that should at least be enough to be able to move that. That's just a little bit off, which means I need my other measurement. So yeah, about a quarter turn there. About a half turn there. And tune it up. So a little bit of a trick, because we don't have middle intonation points or adjustable middle intonation points, we can just actually do the outside and see that those are in pitch before having to tune the whole guitar up. So we'll put it in playing position, pluck our open. Perfect. Oh yeah, there you go. That basically sounds right. This is called the tuning song. This is even better. So we shouldn't see a difference really in intonation, even though we're bringing the rest of the tension on the neck, because the bridge doesn't really have the ability to move. So let's take a quick little peek there. There we go. There you go. A little smoke on the water tab. Hey, thanks for the follow, Nordic. Just smoke on the water, that's all you need today. Cool. That is a done guitar. That is another GG. See what I did there? Great guitar. Anyway, yeah, I think that is pretty awesome, actually, how quickly that came together. I'm surprised because we went from 9s to 11s. Still in open tuning, though. The 9s were the open tuning, and then we went back just with a thicker gauge, but I was expecting a little bit more, actually, adjustments on that. But it's nice when that all works out. So that's basically all we need to do. So I'll put the truss rod cover on, give it its last little cleanup, and then we will be good to wrap this one up. The other thing I don't like about matte tops, though, is they attract fingerprints so easily. That's why I clean it before, and then I clean up just the string part of it, and then after I've done everything, then I do my final cleanup, and that will allow me to kind of get it nice and clean and polished. Nothing like handing a guitar back with a huge smudge in it, so. But I was just enjoying it, man. So that's the second guitar done. I'm just looking at the time. I don't know if I want to do that last one right now or not. I don't have a ton of time right now, so I might come back later tonight and continue on. I know I'm coming back on tomorrow for sure. So this is just kind of me doing work as I work. So I've just got some cameras up. Obviously, I do a fair amount of guitar work. And this is just kind of a request I often get from clients, but also I just enjoy it. It's pretty lonely in the shop here sometimes, so hanging out and chatting guitars and whatever else that happens to come up. So if you're digging it, I appreciate it. Thanks for being here. And yeah, I'm on Twitch and YouTube streaming, and also I've got content on YouTube as well as Instagram. Kind of all over the place, but yeah. Just enjoying it. All right, that is done. Oh, I forgot to do the neck. This is my little wipe off fret work. We spent all that time polishing, and now this will just help us get that polish back on there. And then do the back of the buttons. I forgot to do those. Hey, I'm glad, Nora. Appreciate you checking this out, being here. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, you know, I don't really think too much about it because this is what I do all day, every day. I have a mountain of guitars behind me, and I do all sorts of stuff. This is like setups. Obviously, it's a little bit easier to like stream that, but I also do some bigger cracks and breaks and finish work and all that kind of stuff, and I really enjoy doing that, and it's sometimes really fun to watch. But I've been told this quite a few times. Everyone's like, man, if you were to like just like set a camera up while you're working, I would totally dig it. So it's like, all right. So I appreciate you saying that. Gives me a little bit of confidence in behind that. So are you a guitar player as well then? You know you're pretty basic. Well, you know your I'm gonna try to say guitar tab. So makes me think that you are. It's the official language of guitaring. Wow. Your eye might be a little bit too close to either your finger or the guitar, but I hope you sort that out. But yeah, thank you. Well, that's kind of the whole idea. Like I said, that's what I'm doing with these. And I'm personally kind of doing... Actually, I got some stuff on TikTok too, actually. I do some short form on there. I don't fully understand TikTok myself, but in any case, yeah, it's just basically... I mean, there's a million videos that are out there, so if it's something that, you know, even if you are a guitar player and you want to learn it, or even just the craft itself, it's kind of fun. Some of my bigger jobs, like I said, I haven't really quite figured out how to live stream them yet, but... Like on this view here, I've got all these guitars. It's a little out of focus because I've got it set up for my face, but like I'm doing a neck reset right in behind me here. And this is really fun because once you've taken the neck off and you're starting to kind of change the taper and all this kind of stuff, it's interesting. It's fun to kind of see it, especially if you're not doing this yourself, but also just in general, kind of seeing what the craft is and what it is that you need to do. And for myself, as I kind of learned to do this altogether, it wasn't really something that I had a ton of resources on. I mean, there were videos out, but they weren't necessarily like, hey, here's how you do this and how can we walk you through this. They're trying to sell me stuff. I'm not saying anything bad about anybody or anything because I'm actually good friends with a lot of the people that do those videos, but there's a little online community of all of us. But in any case, yeah, it's just kind of cool because it's like, I've enjoyed this, and a lot of people that I normally work with, clients and so forth, they check these out as well, and the videos and stuff. So yeah, I'm kind of happy that it helps and it's enjoyable to watch. I also appreciate that. It's kind of the vibe I was going for. Yeah, it's always a fun thing, kind of learning something new. I like actually watching things like, especially on Twitch, there's all sorts of stuff going on. Like, there's a mechanic I was watching the other day, and it's like, I have zero interest in fixing my car, but it's kind of cool to know what it is that you're actually doing under there. So, I guess this kind of falls into the same category. But, yeah. Oh. Yeah, I think I may have to. Actually end this a little bit earlier than I thought. Only because I kind of ran out of time. I had a bit of an issue earlier in the afternoon, so I might have to come back. So I do appreciate you checking it out. I do appreciate you being here. I will be on frequently. So make sure you have the notifications on, and you can just kind of set it up in the corner. That's kind of my whole thought on that. Obviously, there can be conversations, but. Oh, awesome! Thank you, Nordic. I appreciate that. Norway. Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's light. But cool. Yeah, I will be around. So I hope to see you again. And for everyone that's on the streams, I appreciate it for checking it out and all the follows and likes. I greatly appreciate it. Until next time, take care.